All right, so awesome. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. My name is Austin Lawrence, and I work with Pacific Wholesale Mortgage. We are a mortgage broker, and so what I wanted to do was try to introduce you to some of the down payment assistance programs that exist in California, especially. And one of those programs that I really like, and I think it has a lot of merit for quite a few low-income borrowers, is the Golden State Financial Authority. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to take you through a nice little PowerPoint where I'm presenting to you kind of an introduction to the Golden State Financial Authority Fund, as well as the two specific programs that they have available for borrowers. All right, so the GSFA, and you want to know the GSFA acronym for one specific purpose, that is their website. So what is the Golden State Financial Authority? All right, let's get into it. It's basically a down payment assistance program that allows you to get help with your borrowers when it comes to down payment and closing costs. So it's a really cool program. Hopefully you're following along. I shared my screen. I have a PowerPoint up, and I'm just going to take you through a couple of these slides really quick. So who is the GSFA? They are a California Joint Power Authority and duly constituted public entity and agency. Their mission is to provide affordable housing and contribute to social and economic well-being in California. So their goal is to actually help people to get into houses, and especially those people who don't have those upfront costs in order to do that. So it's a great program for people in California. There are two particular types of loans. So what are the GSFA loans? There are two specific loans that they offer. One is called the Platinum Loan, and that has a forgivable loan up to $10,000 or 5%. And basically, after 3 years of payments, that loan is forgiven. So it's an awesome program. It is basically a grant program. The other program they offer is called, excuse me, Open Doors. And basically, Open Doors is a silent second down payment and closing cost. It gives you up to about 7%. Now, that one you will pay back when you refinance or sell the home. All right, so I'm going to go over the two specific programs in a little bit more detail so you can see the dynamics of those. So the Platinum program is first, and it is a DPA for down payment and or closing cost. So it's a gift, and it's for selected qualifying applicants, and it's a 0% second mortgage, which is forgiven after 3 years. So this does not require first-time home buyers, which is really cool because obviously if you're going from a property that you want to turn into an investment and you're moving to another property, which is a primary, you can use this particular loan because sometimes that happens, especially with rent and those kind of things. It's hard to save a little bit of money. So FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional loan financing options are available through all these. That's a little bit more specific with the Platinum program. Okay, so moving on, I am going to have questions at the very end. So if you want to write down any questions you may have, I would appreciate that at the end. The second program that we offer is the Open Doors. And this is basically a variation of the Platinum program. The Platinum program requires about a 640 FICO. Both will allow you to go up to 50%, although I would be very hesitant to rely on that. I would try to stick with the 45% DTI, and we're talking about the back end, really. This particular loan is available to first-time or repeat home buyers. Eligible mortgages do include the FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional loans. There are flexible income limits with minimum FICO of 620. So this one allows you to go a little bit farther down on the scale to help those borrowers who have some credit issues and they're dealing with down payment fund resource issues. So the assistance is up to 7% and can be used for the down payment, closing cost, or reduction of the principal mortgage. So they're both great programs. Platinum really is your grant. It's forgivable after 3 years. The Open Door sits there as a silent second until you refinance or you sell the home. Okay. Now, the real question is, how can this help me? How can this really benefit my business? And that's the key to this, is there's some really great opportunities for you in this program to really focus on some specific clients. So who can benefit from these programs? buyers with little or minimum cash reserves, first time and repeat home buyers, buyers with low credit scores, and this is also really one of the buyers with limited income qualification. You'll have a lot of those buyers that come into you where they're literally just starting to look for a house, and what you really are trying to do is figure out, well, what kind of assets do you have as well to get into that house with down payment and closing costs. And when you deal with that situation, a lot of the times they'll have the down payment and not the closing cost, or one or the other, because of what they've read or learned in the process. So this program is a nice way for you to say, you know what, I got a program for you. We don't need to worry about you sitting there for 6 months and trying to generate enough money to put a down payment. So this program kind of can really get them into the house right away. All right, so that's my general introduction to the GSFA program. Wanted to give you my information. I also do have, if you look on the screen, the gsfahome.org is their website. Unlike CalHFA, they don't have a calculator on there, but they do have a ton of resources, i.e. marketing resources, as well as matrix and other kind of stuff, so you can go and investigate this particular loan. And of course, I'm always available if you have any questions or you need any help, or you kind of just want to run through some of the scenarios. Okay, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to open it up for questions at this point. So if you have any questions specifically about the two particular programs or resources available for you, please let me know. Now is the time.
I have a question.
Sure.
So when you're putting information into Calyx Point to get the LOS all filled out, where do you put information for down payment assistance?
You know, this is a great question, Allison, because in reality, that's the confusing part, especially when you start to get on the Mountain West site and you're trying to really find that kind of happy medium between what does my point reflect in their system. What I've seen them do is they put it in subordinate financing. So I can give you a good example right now. I'm doing a similar type of loan to Chinoa, which I'm going to be doing a introduction to in 2 weeks. But that one's very similar. It has those down payment and closing cost assistance, and they usually just put it into subordinate financing. So that way it covers, and you can see that kicking back to helping cover closing costs and stuff like that.
So you answered the question that yes, there's a second, and then it lets you, then you put in the information for that. Or do you put it in as a gift? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you actually, we've been putting it in as a as just a subordinate second, because their system really designates that type of breakdown. So I haven't seen anything specific in Point that would, you know, force us to manipulate that in any other way. So are you specifically, did you try to do something and then it didn't allow you to do it?
Well, I'm just not sure where to report it. You know, Calyx Point has a lot of the information about where you are right now. Where do you live right now? Especially if you're refinancing, it's the same house, but if you're purchasing, the second one goes in. But then you draw credit and show all of your bills and things. I just don't know where to put, I'm asking for a second. I don't know where to do with that.
Oh yeah, so usually you'll put that in that that fee sheet kind of area too as well. When it comes down to it, you'll see it in the breakdown. It'll have subordinate financing in there on that.
Okay, I'll look for that. That's really a good clue.
Yeah, that fee sheet is usually what I rely on for all the numbers. I try not to do the numbers in the main you know, pages, because that's mainly borrow information. That's the numbers that we're really focused on, which is the actual closing costs. And then when you go into assets, you can manipulate some of those, like, you know, will be paid off at, you know, so you can kind of play with some of the numbers.
Yes.
So I'll use assets to offset some of those so I can see what those numbers look like.
Okay,
yeah,
that's great. And then you work mainly with Mountain West. What do you think of them?
They're great. Now that I have Candace Capella as my main contact, which I can connect you with as well. She is great. She answers the phone. She gets back to me. And they also have Jackie Alexander, who once those loans are in process, she can kind of step in and help you, guide you through that step by step. Like, how do you put this in? What are we really getting approved for? And just kind of get you familiar with their system. And Mountain West also has this great training at the beginning that, you know, if you're kind of good at following along with the point by point, They have bolt training right away, like how to enter a loan, how to manipulate it. And their training is actually pretty hands-on. I would recommend having another computer up as you're going through it, but definitely it's a really hands-on, easy to kind of go through kind of system. And they're so responsive now that we've kind of moved on to getting a very responsive AE that I have no doubt that we can do, you know, quality loans through them. And they're saying they can still do them in a reasonable amount of time. So their turnarounds aren't that bad. This is their bread and butter is DPA programs, Mountain West.
So Candace is the AE?
Yeah, Candace Capella.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for being here.
So how does something like this get started? What does the borrower do versus what we do? Do we go out and find the information for them, or do we just reach out to Mountain West and say, hey, they want down payment assistance, and then go from there?
I would recommend you go through your process and procedures separately before you include Mountain West.
Okay.
And if you know, like, and then if you see Sarah, basically, as you're kind of going down the breakdown, they're like, I got $8,000 in assets, and then you're fishing for, well, what about 401k, any of the other stuff that you have asset-wise because they don't have liquid assets? That usually will kind of indicate, oh, maybe I need to look for a down payment assistance program. Because kind of conversely, that's how I came into it. Is I started to see a lot of realtors ignore these people because they're not hands-on, they're not immediate, you know, clients. You kind of have to work through some issues or really kind of walk them through that process.
Right.
I found those ones kind of direct you towards these programs anyway, because there's some issue with assets or the credit's not stellar and assets are minimal, that kind of stuff. Or they have a TDA and they're really scared about pulling that money out at this point. So you can kind of talk them through, well, is the issue closing cost, and then direct them towards one of these programs. GSFA is kind of my trump one I'll pull out, which is, let's see if we can get this money forgiven after 3 years, you know, would be my sell on this one.